I did my independent novel project on The Stranger by Albert Camus. The story is told by Meursault, the narrator. Meursault tells the story but doesn't offer any true opinions or criticisms about what goes on around him because he doesn't really have emotion, so he's sort of like a sociopath, except I don't think Albert Camus meant him to be one. Everything starts with the death of Meursault's mother. He doesn't really care that she died, and all he does afterwards is drink some coffee, smoke, and get a new girlfriend, much to the shock and displeasure of all of his neighbors and friends. After his mother's death, he starts to hang out with Raymond, who is a neighbor and also a pimp. He then gets tangled up into some dicey situations and he ends up killing a man in cold blood. The rest of the novel is about Meursault hanging out in prison and going through his trial. Albert Camus was born November 7th, 1913, and was a French author, philosopher, and journalist. Most of his ideas are thought to be related to existentialism, even though he said his ideas were not about existentialism. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1957, years and years after writing The Stranger, and most of his writing deals with absurdism and criticism of capital punishment, which is actually a small theme of The Stranger. The weather plays a very important role in the novel, and is a sort of driving force behind most of Meursault's actions. He complains about the heat of Algiers, his town, over and over as the novel progresses, and eventually he admits that the intense sunlight is what caused him to commit murder. Every time Meursault mentions that it's hot outside or that the sunlight is beating down on him, his situation worsens, which I guess explains why he doesn't like the heat. He actually talks about the sunlight and how annoying it is so much that you really get a sense of how intense it was. There's also some symbolism in The Stranger. The courtroom that Meursault is tried in, along with the jury that tries him, can represent the society that he lives in, which is actually what a jury is supposed to do in real life anyway, so that's kind of cool. He also mentions how the jury's bench looks like the seat of a streetcar, and so the jury sort of acts like a method of transportation for him to whatever the outcome of the trial is. There's also a lot of significance in the colors that Meursault mentions. When he sees red, he usually is in a good mood, and when he sees yellow, he isn't in as good of a mood, because the yellow usually describes the light of the sun. I thought theme and characterization were probably the most important literary elements in The Stranger. Some of the more important themes of the novel were that human life doesn't matter, and that the physical world does matter. These basically work together to form the idea that what we can feel and see and touch and hear are more important than what we imagine or what we want to see. Meursault has a conversation with a chaplain while he's in a prison that really hits on the themes and shows what Albert Camus thought of religion. The characterization of Meursault is also one of the most important aspects of the book. Meursault doesn't really show any emotion and rarely offers his true opinion on whatever is going on, so it's hard to figure his character out until you realize that he really is the stranger. Meursault is completely different from everyone around him and always behaves in ways that upsets or horrifies the people he's with. I gave this novel an 8 on the literary scale because it's all about Camus' ideas about absurdism and the flaws with society. The actual plot of the novel isn't nearly as important as the social commentary and statement about Christianity and freedom. The Stranger also isn't really too difficult to read compared to other books that are on the list or that we've read in class. The vocabulary is pretty simple and the sentence structure is not hard to follow. The book is also pretty short, so it's easy to knock out in a few sittings. I definitely recommend this book to everyone. It's quick and fairly easy to read, but it also has several layers and is fun to analyze. It's pretty interesting to read a book that's about how irrational everything in life can be, and how most of us don't really realize what's going on around us. It's also really, really funny in a twisted kind of way, so you never really feel like you're struggling through the novel. Thanks for watching the video.